let me maybe first paint out where we were in, let's say, the late 90s, mid to late 90s. I think if you look at Turkey in the mid-90s, you see a country that just got out of the status of being a Cold War satellite, defending the southeastern corner of the NATO alliance, fully engaged in a domestic violence against the PKK, heads turned inward, spending most of its energy fighting PKK terrorism, and trying to grapple with a new world developing around it. That new world is obviously the product of the disintegration of the Soviet Union, the emergence of new states, the multiplication of actors around it, the initial euphoria about a so-called Turkish world, which was very prominent in the late 80s and then early 90s with the breakup, actually becoming more of an idea rather than actuality in the mid-90s, with especially Kurdish terrorism accelerating in the mid-90s. So if you would be, of course, if you would turn the clock back, and if someone would be visiting in '95 Turkey, and if you look at where we are today, you would actually see a marvelous, tremendous transformation of its foreign policy outlook, its foreign policy identity, and its capacity to project influence to its immediate neighborhood and the larger region. And in the mid-90s, if you would be in Turkey, it would be highly unlikely that you would come to such a conclusion that this was actually possible. Because the country's whole attention was turned inwards with extreme level of violence that pretty much preempted and hindered any sort of larger or visionary outlook towards neighbor. But I think if you remember the earthquake and then the 1999, the rapprochement with Greece, I think, and then afterwards, in 2000, after the economic crisis, in late 2002, the rise of the Justice and Development Party with the November 2002 elections, and then the intensification of the European Union drive. You will probably remember right after the election, a day after or so, then Prime Minister Gül and ministers and company pretty much right after the election flew to Copenhagen and immediately got into the business of furthering Turkey's EU cause. Now, those who are working in foreign policy know that 5 years or 6 years, even 10 years, is not a long time frame when you're discussing the country's foreign policy identity. But I pride myself of being a member of this party, of this government, and it's not only this party and this government, it's our country altogether that managed to transform a Cold War satellite country, a country that's pretty much was known with its security role in this region, into a country that has been growing 7.5% average over the last 5 years. Last year's FDI was $30 billion, unprecedented in Turkish economic history. Has been able to project influence to things that are happening in Iran, in Syria, the Palestine conflict, alliance of civilizations, bringing Israel and Pakistan together, influencing the Sunnis and convincing them to take part in the elections in Iraq, a range of other issues, which hopefully we'll get in the question and answer. But how was this succeeded? I mean, how did this come about? What did it require to make that leap from being pretty much a satellite country to what is in our world pretty much called as the pivotal country, and you probably remember the late Ismail Cem, who referred to Turkey as a pivotal state. I think what happened is the fact that we were confronted with a multiplication of new actors around us coincided with an intellectual foreign policy outlook, which pretty much legitimated a larger role for Turkey in the region. This pretty much saw Turkey not a country that only has a Western/European dimension to its foreign policy, but that actually can engage with Russia, with Ukraine, with the Caucasus, with Iran, with the Middle East, and the Eastern Mediterranean. I remember a month or a month and a half ago when I was sitting in Parliament and Israeli President Shimon Peres and the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas talking in front of us to the Turkish Parliament, with standing ovation. And I realized, as someone who is comes from a foreign policy background, to what extent we've come in such a short time, that the Turkish Parliament can be a credible venue just before Annapolis for these two important leaders to come and speak and express and demonstrate their desire for a peaceful solution in the region. And one shouldn't think of Turkey's foreign policy outreach only in the Middle East. I think if you have the luck and chance to travel in the Caucasus, Ukraine, the Balkans, even Cyprus, you feel the growing role of Turkey. And even if sometimes to the extent that we're not aware of it, and sometimes may even not want such responsibility on our shoulders, but we receive every week delegations ranging from Malaysia to Indonesia to Lebanon to Egypt, Kosovo, Bosnia, Crimea, Cyprus, asking us to become more proactive, asking us that we should be more influential in affairs that have an impact on their situations. And I must say, it's even astounding for us when an Indonesian foreign policy analyst comes and asks us that we should be more active in becoming part of the Asian, what is it called, Asia Summit, or there's this grouping of Asian countries, and they want us to become part of it. I find it astounding when I sit at a lunch with the Japanese ambassador in Ankara, who says that Ankara is now an extremely important appointment for a Japanese ambassador, because Turkey has become a country that has immense influence on the energy situation in the Middle East. For the Japanese, as you all know, energy is a #1 issue. They're importing much of the energy. Now, of course, not all is rosy. In the foreign policy domain, there have been developments and events that may not have been to our liking all the time. But I think we can't deny that in comparison to 6-7 years ago, today, talking about Turkish foreign policy, interacting with foreign policy folks here in Washington even, is a very different situation, where we are asked to provide opinion on Saudi Arabia. We're asked to provide opinion on Iran. We're asked to, our views on Russia have become important. What we view about the security arrangement in the Black Sea is taken into consideration. What does this mean? I mean, I could be just